Hi there, I'm Octavia Brooks. Good morning, or good day to you. It's in the middle of the day. So today's topic is how to achieve your leadership edge with neuroscience. And y'all might know me well enough to know that I'm going to be covering the neuroscience that's related to modern neuroscience, the study of neuroscience, and I'll be defining these things in just a moment, and also ancient neuroscience. So let me go ahead and go into my slide deck now. We'll be together for approximately 30-40 minutes. And this is information that I really enjoy sharing. So I welcome anyone who is arriving here live. And I will be giving this talk about once a month or so, once every 3-4 weeks. So if you ever want to join me live, we'll be able to meet together in the Zoom room where you can post questions and I can answer that Q&A live here. So that would be fun. I love answering questions. So if I can monitor the Facebook, I will. It looks like I'm able to. And I will, if you do have some questions, I might be able to see them in the Facebook as well. I'm still playing with the technology. Okay, so I am going to share my slide deck now. And I'm going to share that. I'm going to put on slideshow mode from the beginning. Okay, so what we're covering today, the neuroscience of leadership, activating your leadership edge. And I'll do a little self-introduction, but that I want to make sure that people really kind of understand the definitions of neuroscience, modern and ancient neuroscience. And I'm going to just double check and make sure I'm on the right. Had a suspicion I wasn't on the right microphone. Okay, that should be much better sound. Okay, so I'm going to do myself just a really quick introduction because I don't think you're really here to learn too much about me, but I am an intuitive success and relationship coach for ambitious entrepreneurs, and I achieve the results of influential leadership. In fact, I'm able to help people convert from relationship issues such as heartbreak, whether you can be heartbroken inside a relationship, or if you've gone through a breakup, or maybe you have loneliness, or you could just be worried about whether you can have a relationship with your business at the same time, or you may be aware of the relationship with yourself and getting in the way of your own self. So all of those things, all of those kinds of issues, I'm able to help you convert those into influential leadership, which helps you scale your business, helps you interact with your team more effectively, helps you clear barriers and obstacles to your greater potential in revenues and positive impact in the world. And I love to work with entrepreneurs because I think we're the cutting edge of society. We are the ones, the innovators, the creators, and we also employ a heck of a lot of people as we grow, and we are a key, what do you call it, needle mover in the economics of the world. So that's all. Those are some of the reasons I love to work with entrepreneurs. So let's dive into some definitions here. Neuroscience is a field that is really growing and increasing, and it's been around really a long time, since the 50s, the 70s. It's been gaining more and more momentum as more studies are done and funded. And they use a lot of MRI, magnetic resonance imaging of the brain while they put people in different situations. So imagine you're having a conversation with somebody and you're hooked up to electrodes, and the way that conversation goes will light up different parts of your brain. And now they know more about the functioning of the different parts of the brain. And because of that, it can be a real benefit to entrepreneurs to just understand what your brain is doing. In fact, it's very applicable across all areas of our life, because what are we always toting around with this head thing? So we need to use it a lot. And as entrepreneurs, we've got to really understand how the brain works in order to consistently achieve our peak mental performance. Because as entrepreneurs, we pretty much have to always be all in at 110%. right? Okay, so the definition of neuroscience, ancient neuroscience. I have a background, a very deep background in spiritual development and personal development. And so what I mean by ancient neuroscience is indigenous practices, ceremonies, rituals, energy healing, and everything from the spiritual realm, which has a pretty big space in neuroscience as well. And what happens with the ancient neuroscience and these ceremonies, some of the ceremonies have elements that feel a lot like hypnosis or neurolinguistic programming, but they create neuroplasticity in the brain. Very, very important so that we can consistently evolve in the directions that are going to take us where we want to go in life, so we can achieve success in life. And just a dip of the toe of what leadership is. Leadership encompasses, it's a very, very broad term but we know really good leaders when we see them, right? We know really good leaders when we are working for them or working with them. They're the people who are confident, who are solid in themselves, who are able to communicate their vision to others. And the way they are able to do that is they have leadership for themselves. They lead themselves to these higher states of consciousness that create a more effective relationship with people around them, including their personal lives and personal relationships. So leadership in and of itself is a way of creating more success for yourself. And it's pretty much a lifelong study, because we're pretty much always developing and achieving new states of consciousness and new awareness, and we're always growing. And so we're continuing to level up our leadership consistently. So the next thing I want to go into, if I can get my, there we go, what we're covering today. Okay, so the leadership edge from modern neuroscience. I want to talk about, I want to make sure to give you some information and tools today that help you understand how you can gain a better leadership edge with the modern neuroscience. And then I want to say, how does ancient neuroscience give you more of a leadership edge? How does it take you closer to the state of consciousness and achievement that people like Tony Robbins and Russell Brunson and Brene Brown, like all of these people that have achieved so much, how can we get closer to what they've done? So as entrepreneurs, we can also have that intense positive impact that they've had on the world. Well, in my practice with clients, I put the two together because I find that they work so well together. And we're going to make sure that you are left with information about how to make better decisions, how to have greater focus, productivity, and creativity, and happier relationships. Definitely want you to have happier relationships. Okay, so going into what we can get out of what we can get out of the modern neuroscience. How does it help our leadership edge? So the first thing I want to mention here is peak performance windows. Our brains have ebbs and flows to them over the course of the day, and we can optimize our mental performance by understanding that we have times of the day where we are operating at our best and times of the day when we're really, really sluggish. There was a really good book that I read by Daniel Pink called When, and the opening story of that book is about a man who was a famous captain, a famous cruise liner captain who was taking passengers across the English Channel during the war with the Nazis, during World War I. And he made an egregious mistake that no one would have expected him to make because of his excellence, his mastery of being a captain. And people have studied and studied and studied why this situation occurred. And what ended up happening is the boat ended up getting torpedoed by a Nazi ship and everyone died. But he knew, but he had made that passage many, many, many times, and he was navigating a boat that could out-navigate a torpedo, submarine torpedo ship. He had everything at his wherewithal. But what happened was he made the decision in one of those lulls. And we just do not have access to all of our peak mental performance. We don't have access to all of our mental resources when we're in that trough. And it oftentimes happens in the middle of the day. Obviously not for me, or I wouldn't be here. But we have to know what our daily ebbs and flows are, and we've got to be able to put our most important decisions, our most difficult work into those windows where we're already at our peak. So most people have a sense for that already. Some early birds, they fly out of the bed in their peak state. And that's when you need to do your most difficult work or make your most difficult decisions. So that's an example of one dimension of peak mental performance that we know about from neuroscience. And to be honest, the list, I could do literally a whole talk only on that subject. And of course, I work with clients on that because it's so important for us entrepreneurs. Another thing about about neuroscience that will help us as entrepreneurs is how we can motivate our team and build really good relationships with the people on our team. So we have these things in our brain called mirror neurons. And mirror neurons are the magical force that tells us that we are being understood and received and gotten, right? And if we are able to, we can tell whether somebody's listening or not. We can tell when somebody is giving us their attention. We can tell when we have been understood. And so I don't know if you've ever been in this situation where your mirror neurons are telling you that the person in front of you is not really 100% paying attention. They're tapping on their computer, or they're wandering off, or there's something going wrong there. And so you repeat yourself, or you're like, yo, hey, are you with me? Or you ask for evidence that they've heard you. What did you just hear out of what I just said? All of these are this is one dimension of how modern neuroscience can help us improve relationships with other people. We can tell when we've been understood. And an influential leader can communicate on many different levels at once. They're communicating with their whole being and their confidence, and they're penetrating. And because they are so present, the person that they're speaking to sits up and pays attention. If Tony Robbins walked into your living room right now, would you be 1,000% attentive to whatever that man needed or said? And you would be there, right? That's what an influential leader carries around with them. So creativity on demand is another thing that we can get from modern neuroscience. We can learn how to switch and navigate our states and get into a flow state by just a couple of quick things. For example, I like to take some really deep breaths before I jump into something that I need to spend a lot of focus and energy on. The oxygenation of my brain. I know that I need to, oh no, I don't have a glass of water right here. That's a faux pas. That is not normal for me. I know how important the brain is made out of water. If we're not hydrated, we are definitely not going to be able to achieve our flow states very well. We're going to be struggling in our work. And as entrepreneurs, we've got a long list. We've got to be able to plow through that and get to the end of our work day so that we have time to hang out with our friends and family. Because if we don't, we're just all work and no play, and our relationships really suffer. So we can learn how to be creative on demand with neuroscience, and there are many different avenues for that. We're going to talk about ancient neuroscience now, and I'm so excited about this topic. I first started working with ancient neuroscience, and I know that's a wacky term for some of the things I'm about to describe. However, I went back, and in my earliest spiritual development, I was studying at Berkeley Psychic Institute, and I studied in the pagan community how to create rituals and ceremonies. And then I studied for many years with a wonderful woman who got her PhD in psychology, and her dissertation was on shamanic journeys. And shamanic journeys are what I mentioned earlier as being similar to hypnosis and neurolinguistic programming. They really change your brain structure so that you can go in new directions. You can release old baggage. And that's what I mean by some of you is not in the room yet. So influential leaders have done so much personal development work that they are 100% self-expressed. And what happens when we have difficulties in childhood, especially in the really early phases of childhood, like that 0 to 5, maybe you had a birth trauma, maybe you had something happen. Oh my God, I can't tell you how common it is for kids to like fall down the stairs, for example, and what happens and who comes and who helps you in these moments of stress when we are pre-verbal, maybe we haven't gotten fed recently enough. All of these kinds of situations are so stressful that we dissociate. So in psychology, dissociation is a term used when there is, most of the time it's associated with really major trauma, like abuse of some type. And one form of it is multiple personality disorder. For example, somebody had such an intense trauma that they had to literally create a new personality that was strong enough to deal with the trauma. So in all of these types of situations, there's a form of dissociation. You are not all the way present. You, listening to this right there in your chair right now, are not all the way present. So imagine you're going to do marketing and you're not really connected with your people. Imagine you're going to be in a sales call and they can't feel you. What if they have more of themselves in the room, your prospective client, than you do? How are they going to perceive you? Are they going to perceive you as enough of an authority to want to sign up for your program? So some of you is not in the room, and there are methods in ancient neuroscience to go and travel along your timelines and find out where you got lost, where you got left behind, and to find that piece of you. And it's classically called soul retrieval. Classically, you can retrieve that piece, heal it, and whatever age it left, you can grow it up into present time. And now you have more of you here in the present moment. What that does for you is some of your work that was hard just got easier. And I've experienced this with my own personal development over and over again. Every time I bring a piece of myself home, I calm down, I relax, I am, have fewer depressive tendencies. I'm not moody, broody. I have a whole lot better handle on my higher emotions, my elevated emotions. And because of all of that, I'm working from a different place in my brain that's more effective, that's more creative, that's more innovative, which means I can get through my checklist. I can get through my workload faster. And I've seen myself and my clients speed up their workday and become more effective. You just would not believe how much this dissociation problem creates the spin cycle, the whirl, what if you're the worrier? Oh my God, worrying is such a big part of our family. And if you could worry less, that would be one less thought swirling and worry and one more thought towards creating momentum and success in your business, right? So all of this getting you back in the room creates a momentum of confidence within you, and you develop this inner strength. You start to build and parlay on your successes, and therefore you create more. Your confidence begins to snowball, and it begins to snowball a lot more than all of the other stuff. And pretty soon you have more confidence than you had worries and self-concerns and low self-esteem, and you start to go into the new direction. Now let's see how these two forms of neuroscience come together. So you're really able to live into your full potential. As you bring all these parts back to you and as you optimize the use of your brain, your influence really increases. You know how to make good decisions faster. You can trust yourself better, and you're living into your full potential. As entrepreneurs, the people we see who are at the top of their game They are living in their zone of genius. They're living up to their full potential. They're constantly asking the universe, okay, I achieved that giant thing. You know, I just spoke to 1,000 people. I just wrote a book. I just made $1 million this year. What's next for me? And they're constantly stretching and growing into the next big area of their potential. It's so exciting once you're sitting on the mountaintop of successes, how to create more and more positive impact on the world. And you have more personal magnetism. When you're here present, people can tell that. They can feel that. They know that. And they're charmed by you. And they want more of what you got. They want to know how you got there. How did you become so magnetic? You called Octavia. That was your secret. That's okay. But you got more of it magnetic and you became more influential. And all of this snowballs to your happiness, right? All of this brings you back up into your happiness and elevates your life overall. And so we've talked about this already. How do you achieve better decisions? How do you make better decisions? Well, you're going to put them in your peak mental performance window of the day. That's one dimension in making better decisions and making sure that your mind is really on board, and also that you're not making decisions based on a subconscious belief system that no longer works for you. I just had a friend of mine who decided to change his public identity. So he has a name that's a really good, healthy, strong, respectable name. And he is in a form of marketing that requires him to be pretty much publicly available. And he's changing his public persona into a persona that doesn't use his name. And in my opinion, the new persona that he's adopting publicly is a very silly name and is not, it doesn't put a positive reflection on him. But in his mind, he thinks it's fun and funny, right? Well, that's because his subconscious is shooting him in the foot. His subconscious is actually self-sabotaging him. And we see this over and over again. You are the most aware of your own self-sabotage maneuvers. You're more aware than anybody else. And so when you make decisions, where are you making them from? Are you making them from the best adult place who is connected to her goals and going in the future? Or are you making them out of a worry or a concern or a fear? So this is some of the way that we can work with getting you into being able to trust your decisions better, being able to make better decisions faster, right? This is one of the ways these two forms of neuroscience come together. And of course, you can have greater productivity, focus, and creativity. The more you shed the baggage of the heavy emotions that are either conscious or subconscious, or could be related to relationship issues, and your mind going into worry, going into fear, and all of those different heavy or maybe depressive states, going into the heaviness. And I'm going to put on the table here, even if you are running with an excessive degree of productivity and not taking too many breaks, not really letting yourself rest or sleep well, you're also impacting your ability to be innovative and creative because you're not working from the right part of your brain. So when we bring these two focuses together, you start to shed those heavy emotions. When you bring these two forms of neuroscience together, you begin to release the baggage and you can stay in a higher place in your brain that is more effective. And therefore you end up with some time left over at the end of the day to rest, to rejuvenate, to enjoy life, to have happier relationships. Because of course, with entrepreneurs who are like so focused on building their business, sometimes the relationships suffer. And it could be for a phase, or it could be for a really long phase, and your business widow or your business widower at home is waiting around for you to become available. They get a little bored. Those relationships are not as happy and fulfilled. entrepreneurs are so exciting when to new people that we meet, because we've got so much going on and we know ourselves really well. And we're so creative and inspired and interesting. It's easy for us to start relationships. It's the sustain that we have a little bit of trouble with. So when you can recoup some of your time and energy from your workday by making all of this work together, you can have those happier relationships. So I'm going to just start to wrap up now, and I'm going to let you know what we covered, because that's a way of working with your mind so that you can learn this information more easily. We discussed the definitions of modern and ancient neuroscience, and we talked about a leadership edge, gaining a leadership edge with modern neuroscience. We talked about peak mental performance. We talked about staying in your creative window. We talked about better decision making. And we talked about how you can gain a leadership edge from ancient neuroscience, which is to get more of you in the room, which sheds some of those heavier emotions, makes you more magnetic, attractive, and confident, and where you can communicate your vision much more effectively to other people. And we talked about the really important intersection of the two of these forms of neuroscience. Really, really exciting stuff here, where you can make quicker decisions, better decisions more quickly, where you can trust the decisions. You can have access at will to your flow states of creativity, innovation, and productivity, and end up your day with some time left over, and create happier relationships through the mirror neurons, making sure that we're being gotten and understood, and making sure that our partner knows that we're getting them and understanding them. That level of communication in and of itself is magical for your life happiness, because who doesn't need a relationship at home that makes you feel so happy and fulfilled? We all need that. In fact, it really helps us stay in our peak performance and productivity. All right, so I just want to express an invitation here to you. If you would like to ask some Q&A questions, and I'll go ahead and stop the share, and I'm going to check the Facebook Live and see if there are any. Okay, so I don't see any questions that have been posted. So I'm going to go back here to Zoom. And so I invite you to book and schedule a consultation with me. Actually, at the top of my Facebook page, you can click on my profile picture and get that link directly. I'll make sure it's also posted here at the end of this presentation. And I really, really appreciate you being here today. It's been so fun to have you here. And I want you to have an amazing, fantastic, and productive rest of your day. Thank you for spending this little bit of time with me. And this has been Octavia, Intuitive Success and Relationship Coach for ambitious entrepreneurs. You have a fantastic day, and we'll be connecting again soon. Bye for now.